The Phoenix Suns and the 76ers both tied up their playoff series on Sunday. And then we're also going to move on to preview Knicks versus Heat here on Hoop Talks. Hey everybody, welcome into Hoop Talks. I'm Crina Mustafa, joined by Justin Pooni, Noor Zainab, and Jelani Goodridge-Reid, who's giving a weird stare to the camera right now.
Look. Yes, I'm here.
That was strange, man.
You're locked in.
It's locked in. Let's go. Game time.
It's that LeBron Miami screenshot.
Absolutely.
But we'll start with the Phoenix Suns. They defeated the Denver Nuggets 129-124. The series is now tied 2-2. We're not going to dwell too long on Jokic and Flopgate because I feel like...
That what do they call it now, Flopgate?
I called it Flopgate.
I like that, actually.
Is it a good name?
Made it.
Yeah. Flopgate's good.
It's okay.
Okay. Well, anyway, speaking of Jokic, Jokic put up 53 points, 4 rebounds, 11 assists, but the Nuggets still lost. So, Justin, I'll start with you.
You first.
I know. It's crazy. You started with me last week, I think, right?
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
You're going to take it anyway if you don't give it to her. So.
But Jokic is really good. He's going to put up performances like this. But can they still win this series, even with those performances, if they don't not getting much from everybody else?
I mean, like, you got 28 points from Jamal Murray and everybody else was kind of like 10, 11. I think the Denver Nuggets kind of fumbled the bag a little bit last night. This was a game that had they won, they would have had a commanding lead in the series. Again, no Chris Paul. And it's really on the Suns. It's really only just Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. Mm-hmm. That's it. I think the Nuggets are in trouble now. Now they have the advantage at home court where, Game 5 and potential Game 7 are in Denver. But I just think the way that Devin Booker and Kevin Durant are playing, they missed a massive opportunity here. Nikola Jokic, again, was amazing, world-class, masterclass performance last night in a losing effort, though. I need to see more from a guy like Michael Porter Jr. That, to me, right there, is the guy who's really standing out. He had 11 points last night, 4 for 13 shooting, 2 for 9 from three-point range. He's too talented to be doing that. And I think, again, Jokic is the main man, then it's Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, and stuff like that. But we don't look at Aaron Gordon to be an offensive powerhouse. We look at him to be a defensive guy out there, a guy that can hit some threes. But to me, Michael Porter Jr., if you cannot hit your shots, you are too talented to be going 4 for whatever it was again, 13 or 2 for 9 from three-point range, right? You have to be putting the ball in the basket, and he has yet to take that step to become that 20-plus point game scorer that he has all the talent in the world to become. And until that happens, I feel like that's what's holding back the Denver Nuggets from being a championship contender. And I think the way that Devin Booker and Kevin Durant are playing, and we'll see what happens when Chris Paul comes back, I think the Suns are now in the driver's seat for this series.
Yeah, and speaking of the Suns, Noor, how would you grade them right now in your confidence in them moving forward?
Would you also factor in the Clippers series in that?
I'm sure.
I'm gonna say a B-. They caught it easy. Let's be honest. They caught it easy. Kawhi went down. Paul George went down. They got it pretty easy in terms of getting a Clippers team that was hobbled, they were able to overcome. Because let's be honest, the Clippers were one of the deepest teams in the Western Conference, and then having to go against Nuggets now, where I thought they were pretty evenly matched because the Suns they're pretty top heavy, and the Nuggets also have a lot of role players around them. So in terms of that, they've been doing well because you're watching KD and Booker come through. So I think factoring both and seeing how far they've come so far, I'm going to give them a B- because you got to factor in also the fact that DeAndre Ayton has not been himself at all. Not that he's been a great player this entire season whatsoever. I think he averaged like 18 points on the season, but in the playoffs right now, he's averaging 13 points. You're the big man on the Phoenix Suns. They need more from you. And the second that Chris Paul's not there, his impact on the game is gone. The other night he had without Chris Paul, 8 points, 8 rebounds. That was pretty much the impact you saw from him, and that meant nothing. It obviously means that if you have Kevin Durant on your team, you have Devin Booker, you're able to get the offensive load off for sure. But now, knock on wood, let's say any kind of injury happens beyond Chris Paul. Now you're screwed. You're going to have a really hard time, and you have to stay healthy for the rest of the postseason. So a lot is riding right now on Devin Booker and Chris Paul, and Kevin Durant.
One last point on that, just like the Nuggets had 11 bench points last night. And I think when you look at the, Landry Shamet stepped up big. You don't expect him to get 19 points off the bench. That's another thing I'm interested in seeing. Can the bench players on each team step up?
Jelani, is this a must-win series for the Suns? Like, what do they do if they go down to the Nuggets?
That's a good question because the questions are there with this whole group, right? And I get it. They went to the finals a couple years ago, but CP3 is getting older now, right? Does he retire? That's a real question, especially because he got hurt again, right? Let's say they get bounced. That's going to be a topic of conversation this off season. How do they look in terms of the bench, right? Because that whole Kevin Durant trade, you do lose guys like a Cam Johnson, who was very important to that rotation. A guy like Brooklyn Bridges, who was very important to that rotation. So those are two guys that they miss, obviously, right? So how will their bench look moving forward? There's questions even with Monty Williams. I think he's a very good coach, but a lot of people feel like, can he get it done, right? He has good groups all the time, but can he get it done? That's another question, right? So I think obviously any series in the playoffs is a must win, but I think just for their future, they have to get it done soon, because even before the deal happened with KD, I felt like their window was closed. I didn't think they were going to win a championship, right? It's opened up again because you get a guy like Kevin Durant, but still, like, doing these 40 points with him and Book every night, it's hard to, it's hard to do night by night. It's hard to see winning with that all the time. I don't know if it's really going to be a championship, with only two guys doing that. So yeah, there's going to be questions moving forward. I think, yes, right now they should look to try to win now, because there's just no guarantee that they're going to get it done after this.
Which is why I'm sure they're glad they got the win last night. And moving forward, we'll see who's able to come out of this series. But moving on to 76ers and Celtics. I know Noor is very sad in her little corner there.
I actually need a second just to apologize to James Harden.
Wow. What?
I am so sorry. Listen, camera one right here. I apologize. The deepest pits of my heart and my soul. I don't know what the hell I was saying. I mean, I knew what I was saying. I just didn't see James Harden like that beforehand. But James Harden is showing us what Houston Rockets James Harden can do right now, and even be, if anything, even more impactful on the game, because he's not playing defense, he's facilitating, he's taking the pressure off of Embiid, and he's giving you 40-point nights. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You're like, I was
We
not
tried to
familiar
tell
with your game.
You're never gonna see. We're never gonna see
it.
a Noor Zainab apology ever again, I think.
Okay, get ready for my apologies when the Lakers win, by the way. So.
Oh, actually, wait, no. Last week she apologized when the Clippers got bounced.
I didn't apologize. I never.
No,
No,
she
listen.
didn't.
They
Did
both
she?
I
went
can't
down.
remember.
It's
I thought she
different.
did.
It's different. It's when the injuries are a factor. It's different.
She didn't even apologize,
When someone,
I
yeah.
don't remember.
Did she admit that she was wrong though?
Why would I be admitting that I was wrong?
thought you did.
Two leg players went down.
Okay.
Do you see this?
I do see it. But Noor, since we started with you,
Yeah. Sorry.
I think I can kind of guess your answer. But which team are you more worried about, and why?
Definitely the Celtics. And the reason for that is I think the entire postseason so far, we've seen them play with their food. And they've had the ability.
That is a great analogy. Sorry, you can
Oh,
keep
no,
going.
thank you.
Nice to know who your favorite is.
See, I know.
We knew this already. Keep going.
It's
Yeah,
just
we
good
knew
to
that,
get
yeah.
some compliments sometimes. You
Yeah.
guys wouldn't know anything about that anyway.
Oh,
Cap.
Anyway, talking about the Celtics, guys, don't get involved.
Yeah, that's all right.
Anyway, so
Go ahead. Your favorite team?
Anyway.
Clippers, Raptors.
ANYWAY. Anyway, so the problem with them is they play with their food, and they start off a little bit less strong than they need to. Right, Jelani?
Yeah,
They
no,
do,
I'm
right?
listening. I'm
yeah,
listening.
They start
Go
a little
ahead,
stronger
please.
than they need to. They don't seem cohesive offensively at all times either. I think that's such a problem. We've also seen Marcus Smart come out and say that sometimes they're just raw dogging the offense. They're just airballing it and to see what happens. And that that can happen if you have multiple guys who can facilitate in Malcolm Brogdon, in Marcus Smart, guys that can get their shots up, in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. But when the offense is stagnant, you need the coach to step in and get some rhythm going, which is also why when we saw Mazzulla not call out 2 timeouts towards the very end of the game last night, I was kind of worried because I was like, I get that you trust your team to make the perfect play, which they had both times. I get what they did. But it might have been a little bit easier had he run up a play, or had he known what to do, or exploited the defense of Philly, and that just never came through. On top of that, Jason Tatum needs to show up in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Jaylen Brown's my guy the whole time. He had also kind of disappeared towards the very end, but Jason Tatum was just completely MIA the first half, 0 points. It was a disgraceful performance. It was almost like Embiid 0 points against the Raptors, but thankfully he showed up a little bit towards the second half. And on top of that, I think they're just really missing Robert Williams. His
Yeah.
defense, him in the paint. He's obviously not going to stop Embiid, but he's going to be a presence to kind of just make Embiid's life a little bit more difficult. And they don't have that there. And I think that's what's really hurting them right now as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the top two guys on each team, Jason Tatum, 24 points, Jaylen Brown, 23, and then you see Harden get 42,
Bam,
Joel
bam.
Embiid have over 30 points as well, and Embiid is coming back from injury. So when you look at that, like as much as it is also on the supporting cast, like your main stars have to be putting up numbers, especially in the playoffs. But you kind of mentioned also like Boston didn't start out really well. The 76ers did start out. What does Philly need to do to maintain their leads in games and not let Boston make the comeback that they did?
I think basketball, especially in the playoffs, is just a game of runs, right? Every team's going to go on a run. Every team's going to get hot. And I think with the Sixers, they got up to that big lead, and then Boston kind of found their footing. You know, we mentioned, as Noor mentioned, 0 points for Jason Tatum in the first half. Second half, he started picking it up. But Jaylen Brown, again, 3 shots in the fourth quarter. Something like that can't happen, right? What I really want to see from the Sixers is, again, you know what? Harden has been Jekyll and Hyde. He's been amazing, and then he can't hit a shot, right? Amazing, can't hit a shot. So I want to see if he can he doesn't have to get 40 plus, but if he can get 22 to 23 with his 8 to 10 assists, be that floor general. If Tyrese Maxey can start hitting shots.
Harden's been amazing this series.
He's had 2 really good games, but he's also had 2 games where he's been not so.
Yeah, that is true. Like the last 2 games, he didn't show up.
Exactly, right? So I think I just want to see consistency from James Harden. Joel Embiid is working his way back to get fully healthy. I want to see Tyrese Maxey get some more shots because he's been kind of, really inefficient. This is a guy that averaged 20 plus points in the regular season. So we need to see that from him. I just need to see a more complete game from Philadelphia, not so much relying on those 2 guys, which you have to do in the playoffs, but it's going to be their depth. It's going to help them get over the top against the Celtics in this series if they do eventually.
And I'd like to see more Tobias Harris as well.
I do.
He could provide some points for you and some offense. I want to see more of that because I know what he's capable of.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I seem to find when I watch the Sixers, but you always just see sometimes it's just Tobias and Tyrese Maxey just standing in the corner.
Yeah, waiting.
And hoping to get the ball. And when James Harden's cooking like that, he's not going to give you the ball.
And Jelani, on the Celtics side, what do they need to do to not give the lead to Philly heading back to Boston?
Well, I mean, if you look at it, they've been playing a pretty good series, right? It took James Harden 2 daggers from Harden to have it 2-2 right now. If you look at it like that, it should be done, basically, right? I think the Celtics, like if you ask me that question that you asked Noor, who do I trust more? I trust the Celtics more than Philly because I know what they're capable of. I think Mazzulla, he understands what they got, right? And I think he understands that they should have had that game, right? The way that they started the game was poor. I get that. But the fact that they came back down, those 16 points, that showed you that DNA that they have. Remember, they did just go to the finals, right? So I see that aspect is there. And I also see that the fact that Al Horford, I want to talk about him real quick. I get it. Embiid had a good game, right? 34 points. Obviously, fantastic game. But come to the fourth quarter, come to overtime, Al Horford plays some fantastic defense on him. If you're looking at the numbers right now, he held him to 14% from the field, right? In the fourth quarter in overtime.
It was like 14 points in the fourth quarter.
I know. I was like, whoa.
No, 14% from the field. Right? Don't look at the box score. Look at what happened in that final frame and the overtime. Al Horford was, if they had won that game, he would be that MVP of that game. Right? So you look at him. But yeah, overall, I just think they could have won the game. You just go quicker in your action in that final play, you win the game. Right? So I trust the Celtics. I do want to see, though, I want to see Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum have a game together where not one of them doesn't show up because it seems like it's one or the other. They both have to be there. We saw this in the finals too last year. It was either Brown or Tatum, mostly Brown, right? You got to have both of them show up and then you're winning games, right? It's easier that way, obviously. So I want to see how they move forward. But to me, I got the Celtics. I think they're going to win the next 2 games.
I like it. It.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I think Philly wins the next game in Game 5.
Okay, well,
my
we'll see.
God.
Well, you had them in 7, right? You had them
Okay.
6 and 7. Yeah. Celtics
Speaking
6.
of prediction, we'll move quickly to Knicks versus Heat. They play tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. The Heat lead the series 2-1. Jimmy Buckets returned in the previous game. Guys, have the Heat figured out the Knicks?
I think the Knicks
Justin.
just been shooting themselves in the foot, especially Julius Randle. Whenever I watch Julius Randle play the game of basketball,
Oh boy, here we go. What have I done?
bro, it's so inefficient, man.
Preach,
Dude,
bro.
just if you had just a tiny bit more efficiency in his game of basketball, he'd be so much better. right? So much better. Look, I think Jalen Brunson again didn't have a very good night, but he gets a pass. He's been carrying the
Still
Knicks.
had 20 plus.
Yeah, he had 20 plus. He shot 7 of 20 from the field. Nobody helped him, right? RJ Barrett was 5 of 16. You know, Obi Toppin, non-factor. Quentin Grimes, Emmanuel Quickly, not really a factor off the bench. Look, if Julius Randle was somewhat more efficient in the game of basketball, guys, I'm telling you right now, the Knicks would be up in this series. The fact that he's just so inefficient,
Okay, if that's the
drives
case,
me
then
crazy.
if Tyler Hero was still here, they would have been completely called it wraps in game 3 games.
That's what we don't know.
We can talk about what ifs the whole time, but I think you gotta give credit to Miami Heat because what they've done this postseason
I'm
has been
not taking anything away
fantastic.
from Miami.
And I'm not saying you are, but I'm just saying you gotta give them credit. And now moving forward now, they're gonna be at home. They're 30-14 at home in the regular season. They're 3-0 in the playoffs. This is, again, I cannot stress this enough. Without Tyler Hero, who is their 3rd best scorer on the team, you're watching Jimmy Butler have a renaissance performance once again in the playoffs. But I want to give credit to the veterans on the team, which is Kyle Lowry and Kevin Love. And that team, Miami, is showing you that you need to have young guys are great. You gotta build your future. Yeah, of course. Go run the basement from the rookies or whatever. But you need someone in line to guide them and to put them in the right spots to succeed and to just teach them how to make winning plays and play winning basketball. Kevin Love, those outlet passes. Kyle Lowry making the best plays offensively. That's what this team is doing. That's how they're winning right now.
Well, we'll see who wins today. Sorry, Jelani, we didn't have time for your prediction.
Randall doesn't show up.
So you think on the
He said it all.
Come on,
Randall needs to play some
What he was
basketball.
saying. Come on now.
Julius Randle, you need to play some basketball.
And that's how we're ending today's show. This has been Hoop Talks. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Score some points.